Hey! Today I'm going to show you how to use a sewing machine. This applies to all three machines. There's a little bit of differences, but we're going to talk about the Genome. This is our green one. And so first, the machine's already on, but to turn on the machine we have the switch right here. That's going to be across all three machines. So here we're just going to flip it on, and alright, gets booted up with some light as well. And so the first thing we're going to talk about is this lighting system. So this is the same again through all different machines, but the number corresponds with the type of stitch it's going to do. So there's all sorts of different types of stitches and really cool patterns, but mainly most people are going to probably work with the straight stitch, which is either number 1 or number 2. And number 1, the difference between number 1 and number 2 is just the location. So it's going to sew a little bit to the left on number 2, whereas it's going to sew in the middle on number 1. And you just change that by adding or subtracting your selection. So this right here is the speed. On old sewing machines, you would have to control the speed by your pressure on the pedal. But what's good about these machines that we have, all three of them, is that there's a speed. So no matter how hard you press, you can't exceed the maximum speed you're set to. And so you can play around with the different speeds you like. Usually like right in the middle is a good for, you know, a good respectable speed. So right here we have our thread. This is where you're going to put your main spool of thread from our selection over here. And to put that in, let's just say I had an empty sewing machine and I had this spool of thread here. You just insert it through this rod, put this secure plate wheel just like that. And sometimes if it's too tight and pushed up against the spool, it can't rotate very smoothly and it messes up with the tension. So when you put it all the way in, make sure you have it a little bit to the left. That way it can still rotate correctly. So once you grab your thread, we're gonna go ahead and thread the machine. It's nice and easy. On every single machine we have numbers and arrows showing where to put the thread. So right here, we're gonna loop it around just like it says with this little arrow. Loop it around, put it down here into this crack through the number 1, following this number 1. If we pull down here, comes to number 2, up and around, going up this green little section around here. Once we're up, 3 says to come loop around. So loop around, and as you can see, it gets caught right in there in that little hole. And then you come all the way down, back the same. Number 4 says to loop around. There's a little metal part right here. It might be hard to see with the camera. There's a little metal part right here that you want to loop the thread around, just like that. And that just keeps it straight and makes sure it's aligned with the needle. So now we can put the needle in, and putting the needle in, sometimes if you can see on the detail, this thread is kind of, it's been unkept, it's been unloved. So we're gonna have to clip it a little bit just so it's easier to put inside the needle. And when I like to put in a thread in the needle, I like to hold it kind of like right here. That way when you push it in, it has some stability, because if you hold it from here, then it's going to be like impossible to put in. So hold it closely and push it in through the other side there. Ooh, did I get it? There we go. Pull it out through the other side, and then I like to go around the presser foot underneath that little crack right there. So I'm just gonna put my thread underneath the crack, pull it through, and there we go. Our machine is threaded and ready to go. So that's our first step. And our second step is to activate the bobbin. So the bobbin is right here, and I opened the cover just by pressing this little black lever right here. You just swing it, pops out like that. And here's the nice bobbin. Here it is. This is the bobbin. And just like if you were to sew with your hand going over and under, this would be the understitch. And so whenever you put a bobbin in, make sure it always looks like a P. So you have your P, circle part of the P here, and then you have your thread coming out from the left side. See how it kind of makes a P? If you had it like this, then it wouldn't work properly. So you want to make sure it's like this, the other way. So you put in your bobbin right here, and then this is going to be the same across all machines again. There's this little tiny notch right here, this little metal notch. Just that one right there. You put the thread through that, then you loop around, and it comes out this other notch right here, this left notch. Might be hard to see on the camera, but once you drag that out there, push it over to the foot, and then get your cover just like that, put it right on top. And you're all ready to go. So that is essentially how to use a sewing machine. And one last feature you want to make sure of is that this is the tension setting about how many stitches are going to be across 1 centimeter. So it'll be 3 stitches across 1 centimeter. 1, it'll be really long. And then the higher number you go, the tighter it'll be. So these box settings from 5 to 3 is usually a good size. So anywhere between that is really nice. And then right here we have our reverse button. Make sure that before and after you start every stitch, you back stitch it by holding it down and pressing the foot. You have to hold it down while you're sewing. So there you go.